What up, y'all? Tri here for Tri's World. It is Sunday, July 26th. Eventful week, uneventful week, I don't know. Seemed busy for me. Don't have any notes, top of mind stuff. I usually go into markets. I usually go into fun stuff. I had a post recently that got a lot of attention, and my bad if y'all can hear my fan back here, but it got a lot of attention. It was a post about a long sleeve rugby shirt that I used to wear as a member of student government at my high school. And I was, first of all, I was surprised I had it. And then second of all, and this is what I tell my, this is what I tell people too, if they're ever afraid to post and they're not sure what to post, you just never know. You just post it, So it's one of those things. I just posted a shirt, basically an image of a shirt, and I'm gonna mute these things. Okay, pick a picture of this rugby that I used to wear, and it was, at least back when I was in high school, it was very let's just say iconic and sort of symbolized our student government, our student leadership, so to speak. And so everybody loved wearing it. It was almost like you were on a sports team, because I played basketball as well, and I remember on game days. I don't know about other people, but I liked wearing the tie. Other people didn't like wearing ties, and it was just it was a marketing thing to say, hey, come to our games, we're having a game today. And there's a way to let people know, like, it's an important day for us. And so people hated it. I liked it. Anything to show that, hey, I put a lot of work in, and I hope you come through to see it, basically. And so these rugbies that we had were the previous advisor's idea. We switched advisors, student government advisors over the years. And I believe it was one of the previous advisors' ideas. And so the funny thing is, though, is during interviews, you couldn't, it came off as I guess shallow if you were to say, hey, I'm wearing this, or I want to join because of it's just like saying you want to join a basketball team because you want to wear the basketball jersey and you want to wear the ties on game days. It's the same thing, right? So just because I want to play on Notre Dame football because you guys got the best uniforms. It's not a great answer in the interviews. So, but secretly, and this is what everybody's joking about at my high school, is secretly everybody wanted to wear it, because everybody wanted the jersey, and so totally understandable that people wanted to wear it and things of that nature. And so I did help in the interview process, and we did look out for that to make sure that people really dove deep and really understood what student government was about. I actually administered the tests and things like that as well. I think the trickiest question was our school colors. And if anybody's watching this podcast from my high school, go ahead and comment what our school colors were. So see if you can get it. The other thing I noticed, like, I'm so used to, like, when my time at Notre Dame, there's like a fight song. There's like so many like chants that you can do to. By the way, I still don't know the fight song. I think it's an undergrad thing, but I feel like grad students should know it too. It's just I haven't got a chance to. I didn't go to, like I said, it'd be one of those other shallow things. Like, it's like saying I wanted to go to Notre Dame because of Notre Dame football. And maybe you shouldn't be as extreme as me, where I knew nothing about Notre Dame football. But I literally knew nothing about Notre Dame football except that it was a good team. I knew nothing about the history, none of that. So I was, I mainly looked at it for its business program and things of that nature. So and its academic standards and stuff like that. It was only until I went to Notre Dame did I appreciate like how much sports can mean to a school, which for a school like my high school, it was de-emphasized. The focus very much was on academics, even at my high school. So, but looking back, I can see how, at least at Notre Dame, how a sport like football can bring the school together. You create traditions. You create attire, like the shirt. Notre Dame called it the shirt. And so I want to kind of bring a lot of those traditions and the strong alumni feel to a public high school if it's possible. And so my thoughts. I had always thought, at least in the movies, like you see and I don't know which movie it is, but you're like at a cocktail, like I see all these people. It's like, I've said it before in my previous podcast. They're just kind of meeting. There's those tall tables. It's like cocktail hour, and you've got hors d'oeuvres, and you're just talking, and it's kind of awkward. But I had always imagined the venue was on campus, and even for, I think, UC Davis, people, there's a strong emphasis on bringing people back to campus for picnic day, for example. And Notre Dame has the same thing for its 10-year reunion. I couldn't make it because there were some graduations. Some of my nieces and nephews were graduating, things like that. So I could not make my 10-year, but it was a whole thing that you go back to campus. campus. You stay, I think, on some on-campus housing. You go on the field or something like that. I would love to watch, like for our next reunion for my high school, I would love to watch a football game or be able to celebrate it on campus somehow. I just don't know how that would work. So I'm reaching out to people, seeing how that might work. But if you have any ideas, please let me know. Other than that, I did go to the California State Fair and caught Midland mid-concert. I guess I'm so used to watching so many of these EDM sets. I call it a set, but you know, I do have an appreciation for country music. I just didn't realize Midland was as big as they were. And then I was with some friends who understood that was a big deal and let me know about that. And I also saw the crowd, and it was huge. So the State Fair, it's changed so much. I didn't realize this, but I did some research. The State Fair apparently is better financed. It can afford to bring in free concerts, kind of like Midland, and they had Ja Rule recently. They're gonna have Boys to Men later. I guess they had a good one recently, and they're free. And if you stand where I was standing, a little bit outside, but you can still watch the concert. So I thought that was such a cool thing, and I think because of the budget that the State Fair has, the California State Fair, it can afford to do that. And then combined with the size of it, the rides, some of the food, not as big as some county fairs, especially like in LA and stuff like that. But for a state fair, it's one of the biggest. So, and this is the last year they're doing it during the summer. So, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, check it out. I thought it was cool. I haven't been in so long, but the concert series is really something unique and special for people who pay for admissions. And I did see some people post it's so expensive and things like that, and it's kind of like, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, it's expensive, yes, but it's like the person posted about food, water, things of that nature, and my thing is people should just know that stuff's expensive. Like, bring your own water, you could fill it up there. Food, eat before you go. I mean, you can sneak it in. They allow clutch bags for women. I think a small purse, a clutch, but like basically a small purse. And then for men, they allow clear backpacks. You could bring I'm sure you could bring some power bars and stuff like that at the bottom of your backpack, and people won't really say anything. So, and then I made some posts as well. So that's just, the State Fair. It was fun, and then hooped it up a bit at 24 Hour Fitness. Now this 24 Hour Fitness, DeMarcus Cousins, I've seen him there at his heyday too. He was just out hooping with the hoopers out there. So you got a lot of good people playing ball out there, and I was able to go out there with my nephew, run a few games, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool overall. I thought, basketball I've always really loved basketball as a sport. It's always been my favorite sport by far, and so I love playing with younger people and just sharing knowledge. Obviously I can't run like I used to, but I'm still able to share knowledge. I'm still able to I was able to run with the young guns, surprisingly, and I just was passing it a lot more, I would say. I mean, that's always been my job anyway as a point guard. So I'm even happier to distribute now. And so, yeah, I'm even happier to distribute the ball now. So, my bad, I had some technical difficulties, but as I was saying, I was talking about balling at 24 Hour Fitness and how I'm happy to distribute even more now given my age, and just sharing knowledge, just little things. You could be so effective in so many other ways, playing defense, passing the ball. There's so many ways you could be effective in basketball. So anyhow, just wanted to get some runs in before my nephew basically went back to med school, or started med school. I haven't updated this podcast as much because just spending more time with family right now as much as I can, obviously, with the summer and everything else like that, and work as well. There's a bunch of things that I'm prioritizing, friends, whatever it is. And if there's stuff to talk about, when I was posting every week, it was during the Iran war. That seems to be the same thing, kind of over and over again. There's a lot of debate right now around voter ID and things of that nature, and my understanding is, I don't know if people have issue with making elections more secure. I think the incidence of fraud is very small. We've always been a country that wants to encourage people to vote, and even then people are loath to vote. The barriers to getting a passport many times requires much more paperwork, much more expense. Let's just say many women who have changed their last names, it could be an issue for them. And so if they've gotten married or something like that, that could be an issue as far as voting. So a lot of controversy around that right now. My take on that is, I've always thought we're a country that wants to encourage people to go out and vote, and not fraudulently, obviously, But again, all the facts at least say that the incidence of fraud is very low, extremely low. So, some politicians are saying, hey, listen, I'm not against voter ID. I'm just not for the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, because of the timing right before the midterms. And again, this administration is very worried about the losses that they may take. And of course, they're going to try to blame fraud and all this other stuff. But it very much comes off as fraud when I win, fraud when you win, fraud when you win, clean when I win type thing. So nobody likes that. Nobody likes playing a game where people are always changing the rules. If the rules are a certain way, they should stay that way for both parties. So the only argument that I've heard from this administration is, oh, well, he would say, Donald Trump would say it's still fraudulent, but because I won so overwhelmingly, it couldn't defraud me. But if it was a closer vote, it's bound to be, it still needs to be fixed. Which there's been no facts. I mean, it's been litigated so many times already. I mean, it's like beating a dead horse, and still no evidence has been provided, from my knowledge, that shows widespread fraud. And so, what I am worried about is this. Again, it's called tails I win. Tails I win, heads you lose. So either way you win, right? That's the game. That's the game that the Trumps love to play. And it's not. That's why I say, like, I don't believe that this administration they're really sports people, because sports people, they show sportsmanship. After a game, they'll shake hands. They respect the calls of a ref. They respect the calls of players. Usually, they try to. And the way politics is nowadays, you don't have to show any of that. And so I don't think people who are like that are showing true sportsmanship, and they don't understand the value of true sportsmanship. And I mean, there's a lot going on, and I want people to be able to vote, and there's always cycles in politics as well. It swings one way, it swung, red, a lot of people begin to get sick of all the things that were passed or whatever, it's still going to one side, so it swings the other way. And so instead of just accepting that, this administration is doing everything it can to prevent it from swinging too hard or at all. And even the gerrymandering thing, it's ended up favor, and the whole gerrymander thing and is ending up favoring the Republicans. So it's already netted them seats, and we know that whole process kicked off a whole gerrymandering fight all over the country, which again the Republicans are up for it, due to it. So I mean, I've said it, I think both parties need a lot of improvement. I mean, I don't like politics the way they are right now. I do like talking common sense though, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Like if I think something makes sense or something doesn't make sense, so I'm going to speak on it. And I just think something like voter ID, you can't come off like you're trying to change the rules on somebody. If you're trying to make it more secure, I get it. It just can't be like, oh, there's been so many instances where this administration will say they're doing something, and it comes off as almost blatantly cheating, and then the excuse is always, well, the other party's cheating, so that's why I'm cheating. It's sad that that's even holding water, that argument's even holding water, but because it seems really ludicrous to me that's become an acceptable answer in today's political world. So my hope is we get back to some normalcy as far as politics in the country is concerned, and I think it will. I mean, I think the argument is, or has been, of this MAGA movement is, it wasn't great before, it's supposedly great now. My argument is, America was great before, it's great now, it's going to be greater, even better, once the administration's gone, because it's not dependent on any one administration. So get over yourselves, whoever they do, Democrat, Republican. It's the system that was set up, and we need to respect that system and make sure that system runs well past any one person or party. So, and if the political pendulum swings one way or the other, that's been a part of politics for as long as I've been able to vote. So, and as long as I've observed it, it swings back and forth all the time. So yeah, those are my thoughts on sort of current events. I guess as far as not much to update as far as business and investing. I think with everything that's going on, it'd probably be hard for worse. I mean, new Fed chair is keeping rates the same, and we're seeing oil run hot. We're seeing a lot of things run hot because of this war in Iran. Again, a lot of thoughts on that. It's very controversial. There's a lot of politics behind it. Some are saying Iran can never be nuclear, this, that, and the other. And I definitely, and then also there's arguments that obviously they've been killing a lot of civilians, and then the argument against that is, Iranians, and not Iranians, but Hezbollah is hiding amongst civilians, and they're using civilians as shields. So, but still, I mean, I think we've almost become numb to the fact that so many civilians are, and it's just become an accepted fact that has to happen in order to, fight against. The argument is now nuclear weapons getting into the wrong hands. So my understanding is you'd have to do a lot more work as far as like boots on the ground to get the uranium. I've said this before. A lot of folks don't expect that to happen, and even the president now is saying that that's not really a big issue. The fact though is Iran continues to attack and kill, obviously, U.S. personnel and armed forces overseas, and so obviously the ceasefire sort of is kaput now. I mean, there is no ceasefire now. And now the president is starting this, I mean, he has to decide, right? I mean, is he going to go all out? I mean, even now they're starting to let missiles through to hit targets that don't have U.S. military personnel in there. And so I think, and it's a tricky job, obviously, the president's probably trying to figure out what's actually worth retaliating over. And obviously U.S. lives are extremely important, but that's the calculation, is if, the United States avenges. And that's what, Rubio's saying. I don't know where I read it, but I guess Rubio's out there saying this administration doesn't go eye for an eye, it goes eye for a head for an eye or something. Something really crazy. But the point is, if you go that route, then this becomes one of those never-ending ones. And that's what a lot of people were saying originally. But I said this at the very beginning, and a lot of knowledgeable people said this too. We don't have a strategy. We're just kind of poking and prodding and seeing what happens. It's almost as though we're bored. I hate to say it, and we're just poking around and seeing what we can get. At least that's what the opposite argument is saying. If I could interpret what they're saying, the Democrats essentially, it almost seems like we're just poking around and seeing what it's like. We're in a video game, and only it's real with real lives at stake. But you're playing Mario, let's say, and you don't even know what the end is. You're just around there, like going around the level and hitting blinking question marks and jumping over toadstools and trying to stomp them and figure out where the end is. And that's unnerving to hear people like Elizabeth Warren, who's very much in the know, saying stuff like that. It's like, really? I mean, that's really bothersome. And now we're seeing that seems to be the case. It is what it is. So the president's got to decide, am I going to go all out, or what the response should be when targets continue to be attacked and U.S. lives are taken because of that. And the whole thing has been really, I would say, a disaster. The original mission of taking out the military, the Navy, anything that Iran has, basically militarily, in a conventional sense. That whole argument, I guess in a conventional sense, that Iran's military is obliterated. But we already know that. I read this, I think, New York Times article or something, of smaller countries, less powerful countries, know how to fight a disproportionate war. Of course, Iran's whole strategy is to close down the Strait of Hormuz, and they've been able to do that with basically nothing. Drones and very low-level attacks, and they've been able to scare shipping and disrupt, oil prices, worldwide oil prices. That's what you're paying at the pump. It's because of this conflict, right? So, which surprised the president. So, I mean, it's just, I guess for me going... I'm Vietnamese, right? So our family escaped the war, the second wave of refugees, because when the fall of Saigon happened initially, they weren't letting anybody out. I mean, I was watching Ken Burns' film on the Vietnam War, and people were literally hanging on to U.S. military helicopters as they were trying to leave because it was so sudden. And Vietnamese people were trying to leave as well, and they, basically you couldn't. Once the basically North took over the South, which on my side of the family, and I didn't realize this, but one of my uncles on my mom's side passed. But they were all fighting on the American side. So on my mom's side, on my dad's side, a bunch of people fought. And I don't know, there's so many lessons I feel like they could take from that. And it's been like that. I mean, Vietnam, by all accounts, is a less powerful country militarily. But they were defending their homeland. They knew it was like home court advantage. People in the South and the Americans just didn't have strong enough reason to want to fight. Yeah, and when your reasoning is so poor, many times you'll experience what soldiers experienced in Vietnam, going on the other side of the world, sort of feeling like not welcome. It's a loss of morale. And that's what Russian soldiers in Ukraine are feeling right now. They're feeling like they're being pushed into war and dying. And that could be applied to this war in Iran. In terms of the disproportionate powers fighting, there's a way you can do it to where you do just enough to wear down the stronger military, which is the United States military. We had an easy win in Venezuela, or the Trump administration did. They got encouraged. There was another one, and then so they were doing these like little missions and getting ready for, I guess, this bigger one, and I think they got ahead of themselves, right? I mean, you get a little overconfident. Remember, the president was saying, we took out Venezuela so quick. Man, it was like within, I don't know, was it 3 days or something? It was like a day that Venezuela fell. And so I think the administration was expecting this to happen with Iran, which again, Iran's completely different from these other countries. Iran's much stronger. They've been fighting these guerrilla tactics and this disproportionate power war for a very long time, so it is a mess. And my take is this: the midterms are coming up in 100 days. The president needs to do what needs to be done to wind this down. If it's still going on and oil prices are still high, I think within, 30 days, people are going to be pissed. I mean, and the president needs to decide, if I was the president's advisor or whatever, I would say you need to wind this down. Unless you're really going to, make more progress, which by all accounts, Iran wasn't a threat in terms of they weren't on the cusp. We don't know how close they were. The president says they were so close, and now they're far, and now they're far enough, and but the intelligence, this is U.S. intelligence that we rely on, was saying that we're not really, Iran wasn't a imminent threat. They weren't gonna, especially after those bombings that we did with Israel. I think that's what encouraged this administration too. I think that was the second campaign, and it was deemed successful because they blew up all the big time nuclear sites. And that was the second one that encouraged them. And then Iran shot back a couple fireworks and actually told Israel and the US that was gonna happen. So my bad, y'all. My earbuds are messing up. Let me find my other ones real quick. I have some other earbuds. I gotta grab them. So I don't know if these are actually even working or not. So I keep switching in and out my earbuds, but let's try this again. This is my third take. But I was talking about Iran, the conflict there, how we're in this sort of quagmire, and how I think the administration sort of took Venezuela and the fact that they could take out Iran's nuclear facility so quickly with a very muted response from Iran as a sign that they could continue to attack. And of course, that's how this whole thing has played out. And I think there was some false confidence there, and I was talking about disproportionate fighting, disproportionate war, and how certain countries have had to master this. I mean, you talk about Vietnam, as I was saying in my previous segment, they've mastered it, maybe one of the first, so, and certain countries after that have continued to Ukraine has mastered it against Russia, have been very effective. And so, I think, I was saying, I think it'd be good for this administration to sort of clean that up and figure out a solution, really, really quickly with the midterms around the corner. It's just, obviously, Iran knows this as well, and they're probably going to get more and more violent. So I guess it depends on what Iran does at this point. But as I was saying, so these are tough decisions now, and it may be a really long. I don't think there's an easy solution to this now. But either the midterms are going to change something, or I'm pretty sure after this administration's term is up in 2028, things will change. So my guess is they should find a solution. Well, that's exactly where it's at, though. I mean, they basically tried to find some sort of peace agreement, and Iran keeps attacking, the U.S. continues to attack, and maybe to extract better terms. I have no idea. But there is no ceasefire now, again, and that's where we're at. And I think but who knows? I mean, you don't bet based on that. And that's, a lot of my podcast, what my podcast focuses on is investing long-term, ignoring the volatility, and indexing, and ideally the S&P 500. That's sort of my favorite index fund. So contributing to it regularly with money you can afford to invest for 3 to 5 years for the long run. Shorthand is 10% of your income. If you can't do that, adjust it, but don't adjust it based on what you think the market will do. Whatever you've agreed to, let's just say at the beginning of the year, continue to do that no matter what happens. If the market's down, you end up buying more. If you're contributing the same amount of your salary, let's say it's $1,000, or let's say it's $100 a month. Just keep doing that every month. Because if the market's down, that $100 is going to buy you more stock. If the market's up, it's going to buy you less stock. So it ends up, and if you index, you're going to get your share of the returns. And as boring as that is, it's been a very, very powerful method of investing for the past, a few years, really, for a long time. I mean, but especially in the last few years. So yeah, that's what I would recommend folks continue to do. And they're going to continue to do well. And again, invest for the long run, so that's really important, is patient capital. Now, I have had segments for people who want to actively manage it, and it's mainly for people who have sort of tested themselves, see how they do, and are encouraged by the results, and are doing it skillfully, not using an investment framework of some sort that they can repeat over and over. So obviously picking stocks isn't for everyone, and not everybody should pick stocks, and so a lot of professional money managers can't beat the market over the long run. So some pretty notable ones too. So just keep that in mind, and I continue to be patient, continue to stick with your investment program. And like I said, I mean, it's done pretty well. I will try on that rugby, by the way. It was just found, so it was like really dirty, and so I washed it. I'm hang drying it because I don't want to. I think somebody suggested I do it before and after. And I don't know. I think there's some pictures of me with the rugby on in a yearbook somewhere, but I'd have to find my yearbook. I could do an after. I know I still fit it because I haven't grown. That's for sure. I certainly haven't grown vertically. I was growing at my belly, and my belly was growing for a while, and I worked really hard to get rid of that belly. So, like I said, I'm like 5'7". I'm like 5'7"-ish, right? And I was close to 160, which is not a good weight for that height. So now I'm at a very respectable 140-ish, and I can go into all that too. This is like a lifestyle pod, for whoever's interested in that. But I've been lucky in that a lot of my siblings are in the health profession, so I can ask them, and they can advise me based on family history, everything. They know everything about me, obviously, how I can go about managing to that. And so Asians in particular, and I think African American people too, have issues with diabetes, for example, and that is about, I think the thing that tends to increase your risk in that category is weight. But even like, and it just kind of sucks because Asians tend to eat rice a lot, and rice is like a lot of sugar. So, and I don't know what to say about that because I love my rice. I now eat brown rice mostly, if I eat rice at all, but mainly proteins, vegetables, fruits. I'll throw in some carbs, but usually it's like complex carbs, like brown, like wheat bread, and brown rice. But I just try to avoid rice in general. If I'll eat some carbs, like even like with chips, like tortilla chips, you should look for multi-grain tortilla chips instead of just plain empty carbs. If they have like seeds in them and stuff, and Costco sells them, their own brand, Kirkland sells them. Those can be a nice add as far as carbs. Stay away from processed foods, obviously. Ramen. I used to eat that like so much, and now I don't anymore. But things that tend to have less processing is like canned beans. I believe canned tuna. If you're going to do processed, I like just cooking all my food, or a lot of my food now. If I want to cheat, then I'll make sure the product doesn't have nitrates and nitrite, which is a preservative that is very unhealthy. So if you buy lunch meat at Costco, you'll see that it says no nitrites and nitrates. And of course, controlling. I love having a beer now and then, but a lot of carbs. So maybe, yeah. I mean, and you don't want that beer belly. So, but yeah, I mean, and obviously I go to the gym. I don't think I go long enough, but I do spend 10 to 15 minutes stretching, just given my age. I'll do 20 minutes of weights, 10 minutes of cardio typically, and then that's basically 5 days a week, and that's my gym. But that's how I was able to lose weight. And then of course portion sizes. I was just so used to being small and like eating everything that I could to gain weight, and so that mentality didn't hurt me, or did actually. I mean, so because when I worked at Bank of America, they do a lot of preventative tests, and even then, but I went in, honestly, I was drinking so much coffee and before my blood tests and stuff, so and before blood pressure gauges, and so it seemed like I had like high blood pressure, all this stuff. But either way, I'm still worried about it. So I should still try to manage to it, right? So, but I did notice, because you're supposed to like not eat a meal and stuff like that before you go in for these like diagnostic tests or preventative tests. And I always ate like massive meals and like would be hopped up on coffee all day, so word to the wise. But either way, it's just, given the health issues for, Asians in particular, that is like a common thing. Hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, things of that nature. And we look skinny too, but still that doesn't always tell the whole story. So, but it helps. It actually helps to, not have as much weight, because it just tends to correlate with a lot more problems from my understanding. So yeah, everybody's different, and I know I'm trying to manage to certain things just given the problems that I may be prone to. Yeah. So everybody's different. Some people can gain a bunch of weight, eat a bunch of fat, eat a bunch of whatever, and not have issues. But well, that's not a lot of people. But I try to manage to that, and again, and then portion, like I said, portion sizes. So that's how I've been able to lose weight and try to keep it off. But yeah, thought I'd share that. I mean, just because for anybody struggling, because I always see these things online like how to lose weight, and they're always like these GLPs. I don't know if y'all know, but Warren Buffett's like one of my heroes, and he's always like, just eat less calories than you use in a day, or that's how you lose weight or keep the weight off. If the calories are equal, you keep equal weight. If you use more calories than you consume, then you lose weight. So, and if you take in more calories than you burn, then so he's a calorie counter. But the point is, big picture, right? Because I'm not a calorie counter. I mean, I do try to weigh myself and keep track of my weight, but it's more like, it's the same concept. It's like, you have to watch what you eat, you have to look at what you burn and see if it works. And if it's not working, it's probably one of the two, or both. You gotta exercise more, you gotta eat less if you want to lose weight. And at least for me, it was a big wake-up call for me that I was. And then especially as you get older, your metabolism tends to slow, so you tend to gain weight a lot easier. So for me, like, I'll go to a buffet and I'll gain like 2-3 pounds that I can't lose unless I work at it for like a week or two. And so I already know this is like my cycle. If I eat too much outside of my typical portion sizes, it's going to take some work to work that off. And so every now and then you can cheat. So my target weight is 145. I try to keep it at 140 so that I can have some room to maneuver on holidays, stuff like that. But yeah, some people will say that's too light or whatever, but that is my target weight. I mean, for my height. So I don't think people realize that. And some people may argue, well, if it's muscle, then you're all good. And that's not necessarily true, because if everybody's heart is only so big. And again, like I said, I talked to my family members who, some of them, are physicians. And so congrats to my nephew who's just got accepted in a UCLA med. But yeah, I've been able to pick their brains a lot as far as health and things of that nature. I'm seeing some articles that teeth is a big deal because it goes into your bloodstream and to your heart. So make sure you're getting your teeth cleaned too, and dental work done. So, but as far as like overall health, cardiovascular health, target weight, you can look up all that in terms of what your target weight should be based on your height, and figure all that out and just figure out what works for you. But yeah, I was talking about muscle, and if you have a lot of weight, even if it's muscle, your heart has to work. If you're overweight, and let's just say it's muscle, I think there's some give and take to that. That's just my personal take. You can maybe weigh a little more if you know it's muscle, which I trick myself into thinking it's muscle. I think a lot of people do this because I know I did it for a long time. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay to be like 10 pounds overweight because I think it's muscle, but I don't actually know. How do I know it's muscle? Oh, I'm lifting more, And it could be. It's just, that's how I justified eating these massive meals. I like eating, I'll be honest, but I'm just like everybody else. And so people don't believe me. They look at me like, man, you're skinny. And I'm like, not always. I used to be. Look at my old pictures. I mean, just as recently as like a couple years ago, I wasn't skinny then. And so they're like, oh, you've always been that way. No, I worked at it because I didn't realize my metabolism would go down that fast, and I thought I could still eat like I was 18. Well, my metabolism slowed, so I gained weight super quick now, and sometimes I'm not sure if I'm building muscle in the gym, to be quite honest. I'm in there and I'm like, I know I'm doing enough, but half an hour isn't that long in the gym, and so I think it's safer to just keep a healthy weight, whether it's muscle, whether it's not muscle, and because you look at a lot of these bodybuilders have heart issues. Because their hearts are working really hard. Arnold Schwarzenegger did, or there's just injuries too. When you lift past a certain weight, the heavier I lift, especially as I'm getting older, I'm getting injured more. So, but with that said, I still lift. I still lift a decent amount. But I do try to do higher reps. And that is, I have been gaining a little bit of strength. But again, I don't want to fool myself into thinking it's all muscle, because it's just been my way of gaining weight and eating massive meals to my detriment. So, other than that, as far as fun stuff, I continue to produce, or continue to try to produce. Me having no musical training, obviously. Even when I watched Armin van Buuren's masterclass, I was like, I do not know what he's talking about. But you can learn a lot online, from my understanding. I bought a really cheap MIDI keyboard. I'll show y'all. This is my MIDI keyboard. I haven't showed y'all my DJ setup because I don't, I just don't like putting myself out there like, look, I'm a DJ. I don't know why. It's just, even when you saw me DJ, I'm like I'm in shorts and stuff. I mean, I'm grinding. That's, producing versus DJing. Producing is really difficult. Producing takes a lot more time. That's why I haven't come out with new tracks. I can remix and I can keep doing that, but I run into copyright stuff. So I want to build stuff from scratch. And even if, FL Studio's got a really good setup for beginners. So I'm checking that out. I'm checking obviously a lot of online stuff. There's so much material out there that I'm not worried. I just have been researching EDM music in general. And the MIDI technology was a huge leap forward for the music industry. Frankie Knuckles apparently would cassette tapes. I think cassette-like tapes would splice things and glue them together to get them to sound a certain way. Well, technology's gone a long way from there, but that just gives you an idea of what had to be done before to mix. And it is a luxury to be able to do that with all this technology. You can basically have a mixing mini thing, a very powerful one too, and it probably took up the room, just like back in the day when computers would take up the room. Technology around DJ, I think, software has gotten a lot more efficient and compact. And so I think James Hype was talking about it in terms of how you don't fool yourself into thinking you need CDJs to be like a good DJ. I mean, you see he's going ham on, I think it's a FLX2, one of the cheapest controllers out there. So, and I'm sure if he got on the phone, I'm sure he could do that just clicking around on his mouse. He could do some damage DJing. So, and so don't, I guess, if people are beginning their journey, don't fool yourself into thinking that buying CDJs is necessary and that's going to make you a DJ. The equipment, as pretty as it looks, is just going to sit there if you don't put in the time and the practice. And so, yeah, I mean, I now would think the same thing with the MIDI or a DAW station. Don't spend too much time. Like for me, FL Studio works for me because it's very intuitive for me. It's funny because Armin taught me how to do a mashup in the masterclass that he did. And Deadmau5 has one too, and I want to watch that one. But again, it just depends on time. And I might do that. I mean, because Deadmau5's process is much different. He kind of goes over philosophically. His reviews aren't as good as Armin's, but Armin's very technical. And from my understanding, so is Deadmau5. Deadmau5 is very advanced too. But anyway, I'm gonna watch Deadmau5's as well. These master classes are pretty cool, by the way. And then obviously there's other free material, like Subtronics got started, I guess, just online. So and I've been doing that as well. I mean, there's so many people putting out free content to get subscribers, things like that. You can spend all day on it and not get through the material. And so again, though, I guess for me it's an iterative process, and I'm not trying to rush it because I'm I got a day job that I enjoy and I love, and that takes up a lot of my time. So that's the focus, even with these podcasts and stuff like that. I mean, these aren't my focus, even though I enjoy doing it. It's just I enjoy other stuff more, and so I focus on that more. And when I have some time, I'll do this stuff. But yeah, summer, I feel like we're sort of midsummer, almost end of summer, I guess. Or it's in the mature stages. But yeah, I'm continuing to work on I haven't forgotten about that, and I put in some time, I guess last night, just going through FL Studio, and I really it's funny because I learned from Armin in Logic Pro, and I applied what I learned in Logic Pro and just mapped it over to FL Studio, and it was more the theory, surprisingly. And so I had bought FL Studio when I was first starting off. And for the folks who don't know, FL Studio, once you buy it, it's free lifetime updates. I think it's like that with every DAW. But the point is, don't get too hung up on what DAW to use. Just use one. And so that's what I'm doing now with FL Studio. For me, it's beginner friendly. If you've ever seen Avicii work on FL Studio, he's throwing stuff on there. And literally as he's thinking about it, he's throwing it on there, and it's happening right in front of his eyes. And so for me, I'm sort of that process is a lot smoother for me, and so that's why I bought FL Studio originally. But then I took some DJ courses and things like that, and the people teaching me was not only the online ones, but the in-person ones too, was teaching me through Logic Pro. So, but I hadn't bought Logic Pro, so I'm why am I going to have two DAWs? Which Avicii uses two DAWs, by the way, Ableton and Logic Pro. Not Avicii, but Armin van Buuren. So I'm not an Ableton fan. It's too Like I work in spreadsheets all day, and Ableton reminds me of an Excel spreadsheet. It's very logical and like linear, and I'm just not like that when I'm trying to create. It just doesn't work for me. So like even my mashup, I just threw it on there and just started going at it, and it was messy as hell, and it was perfect for me. But I figured it out. You know, the point is I figured it out, and I was surprised and pleasantly surprised. So I'm hoping I can do it with all the other stuff I've learned through Logic Pro and map it over to FL Studio. So we'll see. Like I said, FL Studio, like, and then especially the type of EDM I'm trying to make. I think Sabai was like, I watched how to make house in like 30 seconds. I'm just so skeptical of like anything in 30 seconds. I'm not that type of mentality. I don't rely on this to like survive. It's more fun for me. So it's like, you know, if I'm going to learn it, might as well try to do it. And I'm not saying, obviously it worked out for Sabai really well. So I might actually Google that and check it out. But it was like how to make house music in 30 seconds. And it was, he got inspired from a Garrick song. But yeah, the point is like, I mean, the most important thing is to get started and to start making it. And FL Studio, I was talking about house music. House music, especially melodic house and like, I like tropical house. You have to like make melodies. It helps to have, I think formal music training. A lot of people don't. So I don't let that intimidate me. I'm not one of those guys where, you know, I feel like I have to play an instrument in order to produce. I think I'll figure it out. If I need to, I will. You know, I took singing lessons. Believe it or not, I've taken singing lessons. And I remember at Davis, I tried out for this, like, not only for a dance crew, because I break dance and I was like, it was like a different type of dance, but it was like, I tried out for these like singing crew, and I was wearing a shirt that was so tight I lost circulation, and I think I was nervous too. But I tried out and got cut. I got cut from the dance crew or whatever the hell it was too, from Davis. But you know, I was like doing windmills, and like they were sitting there like doing like these like 8-step, you know, things that you see, I don't know, like backup dancers doing. That's what they were doing, and that's just not the type of dancing that I did. So you have to find, whether it's singing or whether it's dancing or whether it's anything artistic, I think you have to find like where it makes sense for you. But yeah, I mean I was voted best dancer at my high school, so you know, that was a while back. But the point is I did so many things, but it helps me. Actually, the dancing helps me, you know, 8 counts and things like that, staying on beat. That's all through dancing. So every time I'm DJing or producing, I'm thinking about it like, can I dance to this? And if I'm dancing to it, I'm vibing with it, that's what I want people to hear, you know? So, and of course you got to read the crowd and whatever as well. It's just, it's a give and take, you know? I mean, you bring what you think might be cool. If it's not cool, you got to change it up, you know? Or you try to change it up. So I was watching some Tomorrowland streams while doing some work on, you know, Tomorrowland's like free on YouTube. And yeah, I just, a lot of cool sets. Tomorrowland, I think, is much different from EDC. EDC is an all-night thing, by the way. Nothing like it. Vegas, nobody does it like Vegas, by the way. So, but anyway, I was watching some Tomorrowland stuff, and I really respect, like, I love Steve Aoki's set. If you watch that, you know, his sets are always different. He really thinks about his sets. He puts a lot of work in, you could tell. His transitions are super smooth. And his songs, his remixes are super fun. I think Garrick's did a good job of reading the crowd and changing it up. But yeah, I mean, I kind of take some notes, mental notes from them as well. How they're reading the crowd, how the crowd responds and things like that. But again, these are all producers, by the way. And there's no right answer. I think you can be a really good DJ too, and that's how Chainsmokers got started. They were really good DJs first, and producers kind of after. So Calvin Harris started as a producer, then he became a DJ. The point is, there's no answer like to how to get your music out there, but I think one common ground is you got to produce. You got to put the time in to learn producing, music production, and you don't need formal music training because I mean, like FL Studio, it's so beginner friendly. It starts you with some loops. It starts you with some chord progressions. One of their MIDIs that go with the DAW actually scales your keys so that you don't play off scale. So anything you play like sounds good. You know, the one thing I probably won't do is a fully AI track. I don't think it's repeatable. It always changes it up. You know, maybe to start off, like some of the chord progressions I heard from FL Studio is pretty good. You know, they'll set you up with, if you want to make a dubstep track, you know, they'll set up the channel rack a certain way, or house or whatever else, and you can kind of feed those in. But anyhow, sometimes I saw this meme of someone looking online and looking at the tutorials, and it was like way over their heads, and I kind of feel the same way sometimes. So again, it's about finding your tribe. It's about finding, meeting, it's a good policy to have when you're meeting people where they're at, but also online, like finding the videos that are meeting you where you're at whatever level it is. So if it's chord progressions, you can't figure it out, you want to learn piano, you can take lessons, you can do that, or you can remix for a little while, or try to play some chord progressions or melodies that you've heard, and just keep things simple. So that's where I'm at right now. I mean, I think especially with AI nowadays, people could probably pump out tracks like nothing, but I'm trying to learn it from scratch. That's the best way to say it. I wanna use my ear mainly, and that's what a lot of people do, to create my first track. And so we'll see where I go with that. Yeah, but other than that, I hope everybody stays cool. It's getting hot here in Sacramento. It's gonna be real hot next week. I'm wearing my Sacramento hat. I bought this at this like niche shoe shop at Arden Fair Mall, by the way. And it was like the last one. So anyway, and this is before, the A's had sold out of a certain hat with this patch when I had bought this. So anyway, I have like 3 segments, and it's because I'm going to use these earphones from now on because my other headphones are starting to mess up. But happy investing, happy weekend, happy week, happy summer. I hope everybody has a happy. I'm going to close this with the Benjamin Franklin. I like what he says when he goes, early to sleep, early to rise makes the man happy, wealthy, and wise. I'm gonna start saying that. Happy, wealthy, and wise. I hope everybody has a happy, wealthy, and wise. I hope everybody stays happy, healthy, and wise. That's a nice little close, right? And then by the way, one more. His popular quote, "A penny saved is a penny earned." It's actually a penny saved is 2 pennies earned. Because you're not only not spending it, but you're saving it as well. And I found that out in a Wall Street Journal quiz. Benjamin Franklin. For those of you who don't know, Charlie Munger was a big Benjamin Franklin fan. Learned a lot from what he calls the eminent dead, and that was Benjamin Franklin. So I didn't do as well in that test as I thought, but I have read his biographies, and but that is the actual quote. So with that, I hope everybody is staying healthy, wealthy, and wise. Thanks, y'all.